from you. Do use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us to hear what you're thinking.
Absolutely, and the WhatsApp line that we have is 0550-585832. If you happen to be outside Ghana, you want to speak to us, kindly use the country code +233.
Now, every morning we start the show off with our quote of the day, so
Yes.
we'll take a look at our quote.
So Jim Rohn, who's a businessman and an author, says, if you really want to do something, you will find a way. If you don't want to, you'll find an excuse. So this saying is very easy and very simple. Anytime you hear people making excuses, what it suggests to you is that they don't want to do what it is that they're claiming, they're making all kinds of excuses not to do. They don't want to do it. That's why they're making excuses. But if you really want to do something, or figure out a way to make it happen.
Yes, I couldn't have agreed better. I mean, it's easy to find reasons why you shouldn't do what you want to do. And sometimes it makes it easy for you to stay away from the responsibilities that come with it, right?
Yeah.
So it's much more difficult to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take these steps, and I'm going to make it happen. Speaking of making it happen, we do have a segment on our Wednesday show called Hello, Mr. President. It's an opportunity for you to tell the president exactly what is going on in your community. Have you been running out of water lately? What are the frustrations you've observed that you want to address specifically to the president so that he helps you find a solution? Send us a 1-minute video or a 250-word text addressing the president on all the things that you would want him to change within your immediate environment. You can send that video or text to the email hellomrpresidenttv@gmail.com or to the number 0550585832, and we'll do well to show it on Breakfast Daily every Wednesday at 9:30 for the president to see and do something about your problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a preference for emails, okay? So that's very important to remember, simply because the video quality is higher when you send your emails rather than WhatsApp. But if you can't do it by email, we'll take your WhatsApp anyway. So please do send us those complaints you have, because tomorrow we're going live with your challenges. We'll go through our emails and we'll select the ones that stand out to us. And so don't hesitate, please. Some of you are having challenges with land guards and all kinds of problems in your area. The president needs to address them. Please send us those videos. All right. This morning, I heard the story of land guards in Bechele, terrorizing people again. I think this whole issue of land, we need to get on top of it, and I'm not sure exactly what the president and the national security apparatus, the plan is to deal with this menace, because it is a menace. You go and buy a land, it's your land, everything is all good and nice and dandy, and then a few months later, some people come and chase you off your land. I don't understand that, and it keeps happening to people. So many people have experienced this problem, and I think that's one of the things. If I had the opportunity to talk to the president, that's what I would say.
Talk to him.
So, the land guard issue. Yeah.
Completely agree with that. So, guys, again, don't forget to send that 1-minute video or 250 text to hellomrpresidenttv@gmail.com. The email again is hellomrpresidenttv@gmail.com. Now, May is almost over, so we're making our way into June, and June is our business month. Talking about the City Business Festival, we'll be doing things a little differently this year.
Yeah.
We'll be going through, 4 main topics throughout the year. We're starting off on the 2nd of June with restarting your business after COVID-19. A lot of businesses have gone down. A lot of businesses have had to pivot to meet these times, and we'll be going through some of that on the 2nd of June. And then when we get to the 9th of June, we're going to be exploring new ways of engaging your customers.
Yes.
So especially for the e-commerce businesses, how do you leverage this opportunity where everybody's home to really find new ways of engaging your customers.
Yeah, and then we also have Agribusiness Forum, how to create another career in agribusiness. You know, and this topic is particularly important because I feel that a lot of the times, you know, there's a lot that can be done in agribusiness that you can still continue to do your own job, business, whatever it is, and still be engaged in another auxiliary business. So I think it's a very important topic for us to discuss. And then finally, we'll have the trade forum. We'll be discussing, will export trade be the same again? You know, that'll be on the 23rd of June. And this will be the last one for the month of June. City Business Festival, the virtual business forum, and it will be live here on City TV.
Yes, now we have been joined by Samuel Atta-Mensah, who's the CEO of City FM and City TV. He'll be telling us more about the business festival. If you have any questions for him while he's here, let us hear them with the hashtag Breakfast Daily and WhatsApp line 0550585832. If you're outside Ghana, use the country code +233. Good morning, Summons.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm well.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Feels strange, but I'm well.
So tell us about the City Business Festival, this year's edition.
Okay, so this year's edition of the festival is actually no different from what we've been doing in previous years. So this year, the month as we observe it for business will be 15 years. So it's been going on for the last 15 years. It used to be Management Development Month, which time the emphasis was on management education or young managers education. So it will be a series of on-air discussions on business topics. Some of them academic, some of them you know, theory and practice, some of them experiential. Howbeit all tilted towards the marketing and customer service angles. As the brand evolved, we chose to expand it to draw in more business in action, if you like. So it's more the case of people who are in business and sharing their experiences for others to, you know, to be able to learn.
Yeah.
So that's where we are at the moment. But for this year, you know, it's normally a combination of on-air discussions and off-site events, some of which events we have held in some of our hotels, Alisa, Kempinski, Labadi Beach, and all the other places. But as we have now, we are not able to organize events properly. So because we can't organize events properly, we can only work with offline events.
Yeah.
So which means that we'll be doing the Zoom. Now, if we have to do Zoom, people are asking, how do we, because it's also on TV. Now, it's going to be on TV and it's going to be on our Facebook pages. The number of activities that you have mentioned already, I'll be going through them as well. So we have the TV virtual events, which will be simulcast on Facebook. And then we have the radio discussions. So for the whole month of June, every morning we'll have a discussion on a particular business topic on radio. That's on City FM. And then in between, we'll be having our virtual events on TV.
Okay. Now let's walk through the different events that we'll have, starting with Reboot, restarting your business after COVID-19.
Okay, so that's it's reboot, and if you know what rebooting is, those of you who are familiar with a computer, you know, it's when you have to reboot is when the computer is misbehaving and you are not seeing top, then you know you do Control-Alt-Delete, which most of you have lost touch with. You know, you press the Control key, you press the Alt key, and then you press the Delete key at the same time, and the whole system shuts and then starts all over again. I'm old school, so I don't know whether it still works.
It still works. It still works with all Windows machines. It still works.
Cool. Right. So we have to reboot our businesses because of what COVID has done to us. I mean, the compass is looking in a direction where we cannot bear ourselves because we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the environment itself has to offer, and therefore we don't know where we are heading. We just take it one day at a time. But is there a better way to look at the situation? How do we restart and reorganize ourselves? How do we generate more value from the situation where we find ourselves? Is it a matter of changing the nature of your business at this point? Is it a matter of, downsizing? Is it a matter of, so what should we do? So how do we restart your business now that COVID has taken over? So that one happens on the 2nd of June.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it will be on City TV, and it will also be on our City TV Facebook page, City FM Facebook page. Now, for those of you who want to be part of this, you will have to call our number,
Okay.
0205 973 973. Now, when we say that you want to be part of it, what we mean is that, TV itself is just a one-way communication equipment. But so that if you have specific questions that you want to put to the presenters, you can do it through Zoom. And so if you register, then you have the chance to be logged onto our Zoom universe so that you can also engage with the facilitators. But if it's just a matter of watching, you can watch on TV. But if you want to really engage and benefit from it, please register. It's free registration. You have nothing to lose anyway. So once you register, you'll be hooked on the Zoom for you to participate.
Okay.
Now, the second one is 9th of June, which is the e-commerce forum. Now, we decided to look at e-commerce because, again, look at COVID. Look at what it has done to distribution. People cannot move as they used to do, and distribution has become a risky business because of, again, the nature of the infections. So we are thinking that there will be a number of businesses, indigenous businesses, small businesses, who would want to take advantage of the situation and try and look at the new media space and how they can push their services and products through new media.
Okay.
And that will be by e-commerce.
Yeah.
So how do you place your product on the internet so that you can get people to patronize? And it's not as simple as taking a picture and putting it on Facebook. No. It goes beyond that. There are ways to do it.
Yeah.
There are ways to do with the least cost. There are ways to do where you hit the jackpot, and also all sorts of things. So we are creating this one, exploring new ways of engaging your customers. This is on the 9th of June, which is a week after. And then the week after that, we have the first Agri-Business Forum. Now, we've been doing a number of these in the last couple of years, but the questions keep coming, the what to do and the how to do. People ask, so what should I do? I have the land. What should I do that will give me the biggest benefits or the quickest benefits? And how do I do it? I mean, these are the questions. You have a land in your hometown. You have a land somewhere, but you just don't know where to start from.
Yeah.
You have unemployment, or you have been laid off, or there's a risk of you getting laid off. Is it time for you to look at this as a second stream of income?
Yeah.
Or a retirement, something that you want to do, or something that you even want to start from scratch and make it part of your business? So this Agribusiness Forum gives us how to create a career out of agribusiness. People will go into food crops, cash crops, animal, whatever. So, Jifa, you have to get ready for that one. Yeah.
Well, the opportunities are endless within the agricultural value chain. So.
Thank you. So that's on the 16th, right here again. And the same applies. If you want to join, please register. Call the number. You have the numbers.
0205 973 973.
Yeah, and then we also have the 0550 973 973.
Good. And then the last of the events, the virtual events, will be the Trade Forum. Now, this Trade Forum, again, opens up the questions surrounding import and export.
Yeah.
Import and export. Our what I call our quasi-auto industry, the Abosiokan people. The businesses are driven by imports.
Yeah.
And there are others whose businesses are actually driven by exports. Now, COVID comes in. What do? What's the way forward?
Yeah.
So we ask the question, will the export-import trade ever be the same again? That's the question. And it will be another very interesting one with our colleague from GIPC, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, and the like joining in for the discussion. So you want to be part of it, please call and register so that you'll be given your Zoom access code. Yeah. So these are the topics that we have.
Can you share with us any light on the panelists for the different segments?
We don't have the panelists yet confirmed because this year we are actually partnering with ABSA. ABSA Bank, and so they are also involved in with some of the panelists and all that. So that will be confirmed before program starts. But these are very well experienced and knowledgeable panelists as usual.
Yeah. But how important is it now for businesses to begin to, rethink the way they've been doing things usually? No one expected to run a business during a pandemic. So how important is it now, all these opportunities for the various businesses?
Well, it's not between the devil and the deep blue sea. This one is between the devil and yourself. You know, it's clear that the way you can survive is to rethink and to innovate. And if you don't do that, you're dead. Because it's bad for every organization. It's bad for every company. But trust me, there are some companies that will be better positioned to even take advantage of where we are. They'll be better positioned to take advantage of this. There are going to be new champions under these conditions. There are going to be new champions. Things will not remain the same. It's not to say that if you keep doing what you used to do before, you become number one. No, you can't become number one because people are feeling the pinch. And so people are going to react differently. And so there are some people who used to be in the, say, used to do bread. Now he sees that, no, my distribution there. So how can I add something to the bread that will make me, a champion in my industry? People are thinking. And so we know that if you don't think and innovate, company can collapse.
Yeah. But when it comes to innovation too, sometimes, it's easier said than done. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who have become so used to doing things in a certain way. How difficult is it to make room for this type of change, to say, okay, perhaps let me pivot into looking into other opportunities?
Well, it's not always looking into other opportunities. You see, you can look at a competitive angle or a comparative angle. You can decide that I'll remain in this business, but I'll scale up. Or you can decide that let me hold on to what I'm doing, the size of business I'm doing, and look for other opportunities. For instance, somebody, a lecturer friend of mine, PhD candidate in KIUST, when the COVID came, she was just doing sanitizers, just on campus.
Big demand.
Wow.
And then she decided that, this thing, why don't I try? Because now people are looking for it. So she tries, and we all help. I put on my Facebook page, and others helped. And within a short time, it became a business. Now she's struggling
to meet demand.
So there are opportunistic areas, and then there are difficult areas. But those difficult areas can also give you the best returns, So I think it's not easy, but it's the only thing we can do to survive. Either you scale up or you do something differently.
Considering the fact that we are moving into the online space more heavily during this COVID period, how do you see the future in terms of, because I know that service providers, in terms of internet service providers, we've had challenges. Sometimes it's choppy internet and so on and so forth. How important is it for them being on the back end or being the foundation of how we can drive business on the internet for them to really step up their game.
I mean, the ISPs have forever been preaching what you're saying. I mean, their aim is to get everybody into the digital space. Indeed, that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
Hitherto, they will make their money only on voice calls. But voice calls is almost obsolete, you know. Better for them. So as for them, they will keep advocating.
Okay.
And why not? The world is ahead of Africa, okay? Because there's still stakeholder conversations going on how to ensure we have a cashless society. And you have Ghana, for instance, where we are still struggling with our location addressing system. The Ghana Post GPS has not been exhaustively, people haven't connected to it well. I was hoping that by now everybody will have a Ghana Post GPS, you know, because it helps.
Yes.
It really, really helps in the digital space, because once they know who you are, where you are, the KYCs become better. You know your customer process becomes better. So I think that by and large, we will all find ourselves there one of these days, maybe by default, because things are going to change so significantly at the global level post-COVID that we won't have any option but to hook onto it.
Okay.
All right.
Finally, is there a deadline to register for the entrepreneurs who would want to ask questions and join us via Zoom?
Well, I am hoping that for each one, the deadline will be the morning of the program, because really there's no you can register as many times or as many people as you can, because it's a virtual space anyway. So by the morning of the program, we should know who is, so that we can email the details to them.
Thank you.
But not when the program is on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
very much.
Samuel Atta-Mensah.
Thank you.
The CEO of City FM and City TV. And there you have it for our business festival next month. We're going to discuss rebooting your business. Okay, how do you take advantage of the opportunities here? We are also going to talk about opportunities within the e-commerce space, as well as the agribusiness space and trading. And of course, all of this is possible by our sponsors.
ABSA. So we are collaborating with ABSA Bank in all the events. So you'll be seeing a lot of ABSA stuff. We also have support from the GIPC at this point. So we duly acknowledge them. And so you will see a lot of communication from them as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, again, to register, call us at 0205 973 973 or
Yes, and or 0558 973 973.
Still Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. My name is Jifa Eke-Amisa.
And I'm David Kwekusechi.
News reviews next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
There is no promise we cannot keep. There is no commitment we cannot honor. There is no delivery we cannot guarantee. There is only one Bethel Logistics Company Limited, a licensed international freight forwarding and clearing agent, a trusted global brand with an extensive network for the movement of air freight and ocean freight worldwide. We are the trusted name for road freight into Western and Northern Africa. We are fully accredited by Ghana Customs and Excise. We cater for all your freight forwarding, customs clearing and forwarding, cross trades, inland transportation, internal cargo tracking systems, customer freight costing and consultancy, cold chain logistics management, logistics and warehousing, quality inspection, and much more. In Accra, Tema, and Takrady, we are always available to ensure easy movement of cargo countrywide. Call us on 0204 528 900 or 0244 70 107-859. Email info@bethellogistics.com. Locate us in Accra at North Ridge, adjacent Accra Girls High School, or in Tema at Community 4, or in Takrady on the second floor of the GCB building. Website bethellogistics.com. Bethelog, experts in shipping logistics.
There is nothing as hard as a diamond. For buildings with superior strength that withstand all weather conditions, Diamond Cement should be your preferred choice. Locate Diamond Cement nationwide with factories in Aflao, Takrady, and Bupe. Diamond Cement, as hard as a diamond.
Ghana is a beautiful country. There is so much of it you probably haven't seen, haven't experienced, haven't touched, haven't felt, haven't eaten. When this is all over, let's discover our land again with new eyes. Let's feel each other again. We are one people, brought together by destiny. Let's make that count. Let's show love for each other and our environment. Let's tell our stories, and let's watch and listen to our stories. There will be so much to tell. Ghana is a truly beautiful country. Be Ghana, stay in Ghana, experience Ghana, make Ghana great. And we will invite the world to come and experience Ghana too. But for now, stay home. Brought to you by the National Film Authority. Supports the Stay Home and Discover Ghana Later campaign. This channel supports the campaign.
Welcome back. This is still Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll take a look at our newspaper headlines and then some online stories, and then we'll introduce our guest who are already seated here with us. Let's start off with the Daily Graphic. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, we have Zoom Lion disinfects naval commands. That story is on page 36. In a fit of rage, landlord shoots tenant. That story is on page 3. It's a really sad one there. We'll go on to the Ghanaian Times. Landlord arrested for killing tenant. That story is on page 3. Ghana's COVID-19 confirmed cases now 6,808. That story is on page 13. Easing COVID-19 restrictions. Brace up for economic setbacks. Population expert urges businesses. That story is on page 13 of the Ghanaian Times. We'll now go on to the Finder. Dr. Baumia cuts sword for construction of works to begin on barracks roads. That story is on page 8. How to open schools, religious places. Large-scale measures may only be of limited effects without individual responsibility. That story is on page 2 of the Finder. We'll now go on to the Daily Statesman. NDC's health experts exposes deep ignorance on COVID-19. That story is on page 2. Zongos are dear to NPP. Akufo-Addo reiterates determination to transform over 5 million lives. That story is on page 2 of the Daily Statesman. Take a look now at our final newspaper and then make our way to some online stories and talking about the new Crusading Guide. NPP will win 2020 with records. That story is on pages 3 and 10. Plot to smear NEIP boss exposed as attempts to plant fake media reports backfire. And finally, Anas Akufo-Addo named among top 50 disruptors for 2020. We'll now take a look at some online stories from citynewsroom.com. On citynewsroom.com, we have "Don't expect us at Wednesday's IPAC meeting." That is coming from the NDC to the EC. Consider using double track if schools are to reopen. Africa Education Watch to government. We'll be taking a look at that story shortly. Pentecostal and Charismatic Council advocates for gradual easing of COVID-19 restrictions. COVID-19 pandemic must encourage African unity. That's coming from Boache Ejako. Upper East, all COVID-19 victims at Bolgatanga Regional Hospital discharged. It's great news. We'll now take a look at some business news from citybusinessnews.com. Making up for oil revenue shortfall, a huge task for Ghana. It's coming from Kweku Awotri. GSS to conduct survey to track impact of COVID-19 on businesses in Ghana. MOFA secures modern rice harvesting equipment for farmers. NBSSI cautions against illegal charges for registration of 1 billion Ghana cedi SMEs loan. She was here, the Executive Director, Kosi Yankee Ayi, was here yesterday to give us more information on that. If you missed it, you can go onto our YouTube page, CityTube, for the entire interview. Applications for 1 billion Ghana cedi loan will be scrutinized. It is not automatic. That's coming from the NBSSI. So for all the entrepreneurs out there, just because you complete your application does not necessarily mean that you will have access to the money. They have to do their due diligence first. Take a look at some more local news from myjoyonline.com. Government awarding juicy contracts to NDC members than NPP. That's coming from Honorable Kennedy Ejapong. We'll now go on to some international news from bbcnews.com. World Health Organization suspends test on virus treatment drug. Okay, you can get all of your local news from citynewsroom.com or all of your current affairs news from citynews.com, citynewsroom.com, and your business news from citybusinessnews.com. Now it's an interactive show, so wherever you're watching us from, we want to hear from you. Use the hashtag Breakfast Daily if you're on social media, and if you want to reach us directly, our WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. If you're outside Ghana and you would still like us to hear from you, do use the country code +233. I have been joined by Franklin Ni Amati. He's the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I also have with me Nanayao Akwada, who's the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. He's joining us virtually. Good morning, Nanayao. Okay, we're going to get Nanayao with you shortly, but we'll take a look at our first story. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. But anyway, thank you so much, Nanayao, for being with us. He's somewhere in the clouds, but he'll join us soon. First story from citynewsroom.com says, roadmap for easing restrictions to be announced by close of week. That's coming from President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has said stakeholder consultations on easing restrictions in the country are currently ongoing. The President, while addressing the nation at the 2020 virtual Eid al-Fitr celebration, said these consultations, which are expected to come to an end by the close of this week, will help in defining a clear roadmap for easing restrictions. I'm going to quote the President. Stakeholder consultations are taking place on the way forward towards the easing of restrictions so that our schools and economic lives can go back to normal. I expect these consultations to conclude this week so that I can announce to Ghanaians a clear roadmap for easing the restrictions. We have to find a way back, but in safety, for we cannot be under these restrictions forever. Of course, the President's comments come after the wake of the raging debate about the appropriate time for schools to reopen. So I'll start with you on this story, Franklin. A lot of people have been asking for schools to be reopened. A lot of people, faith-based individuals, have also been asking for their organizations to be open and, saying things like we can respect social distancing, we can put on our mask. The President is telling us that the roadmap for easing the restrictions will be announced by the end of the week. Your thoughts on this?
Well, let me first of all seize the opportunity to appreciate all frontline health workers out there, and also to exceptionally greet the rank and file of the membership of the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists across the country. Good morning. It is very clear that when the COVID pandemic broke out, lives was very important. And so you could see that countries after country took turns to lock down first. So lives were placed over and above livelihood. And so you saw lockdowns across the country because the ultimate reaction then was to safeguard lives.
Yeah.
Of course, in spite of that, we saw some deaths. It could have been worse if we had not locked down. Now, when you lock down, you realize that even though lives are very important, livelihood becomes an issue because people must continue to live whilst they are locked down in their abodes. And so once you have locked them down, they are unable to go about their normal businesses. That gives them their source of livelihood. Now, livelihood could also be extended to include our day-to-day activities that we do, i.e. our funerals, our birthday parties, and everything. Those are all livelihood. And so it was very clear that we cannot continue in a lockdown situation because if the COVID doesn't kill them anyway, hypoglycemia will finish them. Hypoglycemia, simply put, is hunger. And so it was very clear that we need to bring in some mitigating measures so that some amount of livelihood activities can go on. That was done. And so we saw the lifting of the ban on the lockdown.
The partial lockdown.
That's right, the partial lockdown. And then we also saw that some ease came in with regards to market, goods and services. We never put any injunction on those, an impediment on those, because life must go on. Now, where we are, we have gone past that stage now, and it is very clear that we will live with this virus for some time. And so there is the need to raise some of the restrictions that have been imposed on us, i.e. our school activities, because those are all sorts of livelihood. You and I sit here today because we had opportunities to sit in the classroom. And so if people are not ordinarily sitting in classroom, we should be worried. Churches, life must go on. But in doing that, we must be careful not to run into difficulties and problems. And so my
What do you
view,
mean by that?
So it cannot be a one size for all. That we are easing restrictions, so we ease restrictions on schools and everybody can go to school at once. It cannot be the case. So I am particularly happy that the president indicated that some wide consultations is ongoing and that will inform the lifting of the restrictions. I want to believe that the people they are engaging are up to the task and they will look at the science devoid of the politics and then inform the restrictions that will come out thereof. Because I believe that if we do not do proper diligence, we do not do due diligence to look at the issues in there, we may lift the restrictions and run into difficulties. The last time I was here, I indicated to you that there is the need to do a certain mass testing.
Yep. We've started in Obuasi. Must be a relief.
That's right. And so when we started in Obuasi, you saw what happened. You saw how the numbers soared. So it was very clear to me, as I sit here, that those regions that we were claiming were zero, if we had done mass testing in there, we will see the numbers that will come in.
But Obuasi was already a hotspot before the mass testing.
It was a hotspot, but what made it even more pronounced was the mass testing.
Okay.
It stands to reason that those that we say are zero, if we had done a certain mass testing there, they will not be zero again.
All right, thank you very much. We also have Nanayaw Akwada, who's the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety, with us. Good morning, Nanayaw.
Good morning, Tifa.
How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thank you.
Oh, I like your background today. It's different.
Thank you. I also like your hairstyle. It's good today.
So we'll take a look at our first story here. I'm sure you were following it. The president said he will update us on the, easing of some of the restrictions by the end of the week. But the current positive cases in the country stands at 6,808. Should we be talking about easing restrictions right now, or should we be focusing on perhaps getting rid of all the cases before we start talking about going back to school and going back to church and mosque and mingling amongst each other?
Well, the ideal situation will be the latter that you just mentioned, but we all know in reality that that is not a possibility. And so we would want to look at easing restrictions. And I agree with the co-panelist in the studio when he says that we are not looking to get a complete ease of all restrictions at a go. That would be disastrous. That would be suicidal. We are also not deluding. We are not into delusion that the current situation of the disease in Ghana is the figures that we are seeing. Certainly, it looks more grim than we are seeing. The only luck, if you like, is that in this part of the world, the disease is not as ferocious and lethal as we saw in Europe and the Americas. And so while a lot more people may be infected with the disease and walking around as healthy persons, that is what we take our solace in. Be that as it may, we think that the step to engage, far and wide is a good one, because this is about people. You need people to make inputs so that we can have a perfect or a near perfect, opening up of society. But we must proceed with caution. As a public safety advocate, I would always want to err on the side of caution. We are looking for that roadmap to be made public probably by the end of the month. And then we can also, glean into it and see which aspects can be fine-tuned and which aspects may not serve the good health of the public. We would prefer that the president would zone our social lives for us in low, medium, and high risk categories. And based on these categories, it should do the easing of the restrictions. Of course, we are also not looking for him to throw out everyone into the public, as my co-panelists have indicated. We would want to see, even for the low-risk activities and for the medium-risk activities, there's not going to be 100%, lifting of restrictions. There must be other restrictions in place to ensure that until such time that we as a country are able to appreciate the full sense of the disease in Ghana, we proceed very, very cautiously.
Okay, what are some considerations you think the president should make as far as easing some of the restrictions? What are some factors we should keep in mind?
Well, I think basically that question is already answered. We talked about low risk to high risk activities.
What are some of the examples of that?
For instance, children going to school is a very high risk activity.
Okay.
Not expecting the president to immediately say, well, we need to get on with our lives. So from, say, Monday, all schools should be reopened and leave it there at that. We are not looking for the president to say, well, weddings and engagements can also go on, let me say funerals can also go on. Funeral is also a much more like a medium risk activity depending on where it takes place. Okay, where funeral takes place in the rural areas, there's a lot of interactions, unlike the urban areas. So definitely, the president will have to group activities into what we call the low risk activities, medium risk activities, and high risk activities, and then proceed to roll out a roadmap for all these activities. We, at the moment, like we know, funerals can still take place. It's been limited to a minimum number of 25. We are not looking forward to the president saying that funerals can take place with, say, 50. Because even with the 25, compliance is extremely, tricky. And so we are looking forward that even in the relaxation of the easing of the restrictions, an activity like funerals in our rural areas and in the urban areas will still be maintained until such time that we have a full grip on the situation in Ghana.
Okay, so what are some low-risk activities that we can easily implement now?
Well, some of those low-risk activities would be maybe you want to look at training programs, conferences. These are very, very low risk. People go for conferences of 200, 300 people, and if you put in the right protocols, it's okay. People can manage to get around these, as compared to schools, as compared to where there's a activity like conferences, trainings can actually go on if you can place some limitations on the numbers that would participate in.
Okay, so when you talk about, gatherings, do you think we should consider opening churches and mosques? And when you talk about conferences as well, should we perhaps, lift the importation ban so that people can move about freely? Or the travel ban, not just imports?
Okay, so that's a cocktail that you just put out there, and I need to, sorry.
It's okay.
I need to, take time to isolate the activity.
Okay.
For instance, you cannot compare the ban on importation to, the ban
on travel.
Travel.
Yeah.
We cannot compare that to church activity. Okay, because the church activity is difficult to regulate.
Okay.
When we are in church, we are all singing. You can't ask everyone to wear a mask and say sing. We are clapping. The next person. The church is a very, very close activity. It's a very social and highly interactive engagement. Whereas travel, if people come in, as long as we have our borders well secured and well regulated, these are people that we can, keep or quarantine or even make them to go through certain tests even before the travel, which I believe post-COVID some countries are going to do. So there are other measures that we as a country can put in place for travel and then open up and begin to get people moving in and out. But for places like churches, like funerals, these are highly interactive programs that or activities that we need to proceed with caution, like schools and so on. So I believe that it's a hard time to be president, I can assure you. Whilst you are thinking of, bringing life to normalcy, whilst you are thinking of meeting so many competing needs, there are some organizations like ours who are also looking so deep to poke holes and to make contributions that may not necessarily serve the interests that are at play at your, if you like, your doormat. So these are very, very difficult times and challenging times for the authorities.
Thank you very much, Senator, for that. Frankly, we'll hear concluding remarks, but we'll go for a quick break. This is still Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. It is an interactive show. So if you're watching us on Facebook, comment down below. If you're on other social media handles, the hashtag is Breakfast Daily. And if you want to reach us directly, our WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. If you're outside Ghana, our country code is +233. We do want to hear from you, so send those messages in. We're going to go for a quick break and continue the show. We'll be right back.
It's here, the Express Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. Express Pay, payments simplified.
Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's an interactive show, so if you want us to hear from you, use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. If you're outside Ghana, the country code is +233. Before the break, we were discussing the president telling us that the roadmap for easing restrictions will be announced by close of the week. We know that a few weeks ago, the president spoke to us and told us that a lot of things were still in place, a lot of restrictions were still in place until May 31st. And May 31st is here this week. So he'll be advising us or letting us know if we'll be allowed to go to school, if we'll be allowed to go to church, if we'll be allowed to travel. And before the break, we're just going to allow Franklin make his closing remarks.
Well, I think that the evolving cliche now is living with the virus. Now, living with the virus means that putting in mechanisms that the virus can be detected as people go about their seemingly normal activities. That shouldn't mean that all the things that we're practicing, washing of hands, hand sanitization, and putting on your mask as you step into the public should be revoked. It should be enforced, and even proper education has to go to the masses. Because I see, from where I see it and with my background, I see people not handle the mask very well, even in the wearing. They wear it and their noses, so it becomes a chin mask instead of a face mask. So proper education must go. You know, in society there may be some few stubborn ones who may not want to wear the mask. That one, a bit of controlled enforcement should come in. When the president was lifting the ban on the lockdown, he announced, and I remember in the 7th address, that gene experts will be deployed across the length and breadth of the country, because these gene experts are national control TB machines already that we use to test for TB. The last time I was here, I made the point that with special cartridges we could test for COVID-2. Living with the virus means that every region must get a testing center, and across the district we must get facilities to test so that our turnaround time can improve, and that is living with the virus. So living with the virus is not just a case of lifting and wholesale ban. People want to overly simplify the matter.
But now we've expanded the testing centers as well.
We've expanded,
yeah,
but living with the virus means that we need further expansion.
Okay, so we should scale up.
We should scale up that so that we can improve.
Okay.
It also means that we do not go to sleep. From where I see it, I see that our sample collection numbers is gradually going down. We should sustain it, continue to control the samples, so that you see, living with the virus means that you put in proper monitoring and evaluation as you ease restrictions. So I am for the gradualist approach, where we ease the restrictions in the university so that at least final year students can go to school. You cannot even open the university wholesale, because if you focus only on the lecture place, you are wrong. There is also the hostel bit, which could be crowded.
And the class size is quite big as well. Would you recommend a double track of some sort for universities?
Right. And that will have some impact on the lecturers. It means that they will have to lecture 2-3 classes. What motivation and incentive packages could be arranged for them? And so living with the virus shouldn't just be an empty sloganeering. There is a lot of work to be done, so that as we implement it gradually, there must be proper monitoring and evaluations on the ground, where we look at the ramifications of the lift, and then it will inform what we do. And so it is not time to sleep at all. The other day we didn't manage the lifting on the lockdown, and we saw people jubilating as if we have had independence over the COVID-19. That should be properly controlled by proper education. Churches should be controlled. It is not a case of spirituality anymore, where the usual shouting in church will be allowed, because as you shout, if you carry the virus, you spread it more. Some of our churches are air conditioned, so proper stakeholder consultations must go on, so that we do proper easing of the restriction. I am for easing of restriction, but it must be properly done.
Thank you.
The dynamics are not the same. The other day we saw private school teachers on the other side and public school
on the other. Speaking of education, that's our next topic. So let me just go right into that. So we'll take a look at our second story here. It says, consider using double track if schools are to reopen. That's coming from Africa Education Watch to government. And I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. An education think tank, the Africa Education Watch, has asked government to consider the track system if it plans to reopen schools. Ghana on Monday, March 16th, closed all schools, universities, and suspended public events to stop the spread of coronavirus in the country. The president announced that we were not to be in school till further notice, and I mean, this all brought about the online education and the likes. But the executive secretary of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, in a City News interview, said 3 different batches can be adopted depending on the size of school. So the focus on this is student to teacher ratio, right? So that we contain the class size, the students can spread out, and hopefully they won't, pass on the virus to each other. So I'm going to quote what Kofi Asare said. He says, it may depend on the class size in a particular locality. That's the average class size, because some have large class sizes. In countries like Switzerland and Netherlands, they have about 3 batches going to school. So batch 1 goes to school for 2 days, batch 2 does, and batch 3 goes to school on Fridays, but they will not do 4 hours a day, but instead 8 hours. So depending on the municipality's standard class sizes, we may have to do batch, not only mornings, but in the afternoons. But also, one could go on and add on odd days so that we can reasonably distance the students in line with the World Health Organization and UNESCO protocols. So Nana, my question here for you is, Kofi Asare has mentioned countries like Switzerland and the Netherlands, but in Ghana, where the classrooms are not big enough, they are not spacious enough, how difficult would it be, even at the primary level, to roll out some of these double track systems and try to have the class size that will be ideal to contain the spread?
Thank you. Let me say that for the Bureau of Public Safety, where most of the time on cases like this, we always want to speak to, if you like, some data, some research. We have not done any assessment or study in this area, and so we are unable to agree or disagree, at least formally, with the group that's calling for a double track to be introduced in schools. Perhaps to be some tracking system. I'm not too sure whether it's going to be double, triple, quadruple, because we need the numbers in the schools to inform this. That's one. 2, I think that it's also going to be a very expensive venture if we decide that we want schools to go and that we are going to run, if you like, for a more appropriate term, a shift system. We know that this virus can stay on surfaces, from between 2 to about 8 days. And it can be very tricky. Are we going to fumigate these schools every time a new shift has to come? Are we going to disinfect the schools at every closing? I mean, it's going to be a very expensive venture. And so when we think of reopening schools, when we think of running a shift or track system, we should also factor in all of these costs. I know it's part of the subjects that will be coming up this morning for discussion. We know that a lot of health workers, a significant number, have been infected now, that the GHS is now investigating how come. But we know that at every hierarchy of control for hazards, the protective equipment is the last, is at the base of the protection measures, and that you may put in protective equipment. You may put in some protection measures, such as disinfecting or running a track system and all that. But at the end of the day, at the point of contact, it can get very, very tricky. And so continuously we want to say that because this pathogen is still being studied, you observe that in the early days of the pandemic, every day something new came up. Now, almost every week, something new is coming up. Scientists are learning new things, new ways of this pathogen. And so we should proceed very, very cautiously, especially for the schools, so we don't end up shooting ourselves in the foot after doing seemingly so good a work. We must proceed very cautiously.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Franklin, to you, there's an educational consultancy called Neogenics Education Group, and they are asking that we annul the entire academic year and start afresh, because there's research to prove that when a child misses so many days of school, they forget whatever it is that they were learning. And do you agree that perhaps we should just start all over in September, a brand new year, or we should try this double and triple track system? And you rightly mentioned that in some universities you have 500 students to one professor. It's not like other countries where you have 50 students to a professor and you can say, okay, let's do a shift system to 25 to a professor. How do we realistically implement this in Ghana?
Well, I am unable to agree with the annulment of the whole academic year. I think that they were in a third term. And then as I sit here, I'm done with my first 2 semesters, so we do trimester in the University of Development Studies. So I'm done with the first 2 already. The main chunk of the work to be done now is project work. And so to say we should annul, I disagree. But I want to believe that...
But you're on a PhD level, but someone in a primary...
It is still a first degree.
Oh, it's a first degree.
Yeah, doctor.
Last time I come here, you're a doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're doing a medical thing.
That's right, medical thing.
Thanks for clarifying.
So it is
so
not...
you're a researcher.
It is not a permanent head damage. That's on a lighter note anyway. So I think that we cannot annul everything as they seem to suggest. It is very interesting to find out some of the examples they mentioned in the early submission.
Yeah, Switzerland,
was Switzerland and Netherlands. Now these are countries with ideal class sizes, and teacher to people ratio is very excellent. That is not our case here. I did some few checks with some colleague teachers, and I am told that the average number on roll in a class here, in the public school especially, is 50.
That's secondary school?
No,
or primary?
that's primary.
Primary.
The secondary school is a different thing altogether. We are doing a double track already. And so to suggest that we do another track, then if you just suppose what is happening in the ideal class sizes, and some are to do 8 hours and then they are doing days, by the time you finish your 10, a month has ended.
Yeah.
And so we cannot adopt their solution. We have to find our own solution as the case is. That is why I got a bit worried when people want to overly simplify the argument and suggest that the teachers in the public sector who were advocating that we cannot reopen school now is because they have their source of livelihood intact, and that in the private school is because they are having challenges with their source of livelihood. I disagree.
Why?
The dynamics are not the same.
Okay.
You are talking about public schools where the mono desks are few, and most of them in the basic school are using the dual desk.
Yeah.
And I am told that some of them have to sit in 3s instead of 2s.
Yeah, so there's no space.
So imagine my children who naturally have taken out of me and they are endowed and they are pushed 3. So please, the issues we are talking about is not about whether somebody has, the dynamics are not the same.
Yeah.
In the private schools, you can see that they can do some sort of physical distancing and teaching can go on.
They can provide soaps, hand sanitizers, all these things.
But that, we are not too sure can be done in the public school.
Schools, yeah.
Now, proper training must also go on for teachers. Some sort of triaging should take place. Every place very early in the morning before students are admitted to school on a particular day. Now, in the unlikely event that a child comes in and is found to have maybe common flu, temperature, suspicious of him carrying the COVID, how do we handle it? Are we ready to deal with the stigma issues? So this is not a case where we can just get up and say that we have lifted restrictions. Proper stakeholder consultations must go on.
Okay.
And we cannot oversimplify the argument and claim that it's because of people's livelihood. That is why they are being, uncooperative or bringing out the difficulties thereof that is associated with the lifting of the restriction. So let us tread cautiously. For me, the basic schools, we should hold on. Let's open the universities at least for final years. Even for the basic DSS, we can also look at the final years. And then put in proper monitoring and evaluation mechanisms, look at the ramifications that may ensue thereof, and it will inform whether or not we should open our basic schools. I am for their September consideration of the school, but I cannot agree with them with a complete annulment. We can do some extensive school time increase to cater for the one-term activities that they may lose. They are suggesting, and I do not know, I am unable to contest the data, but to suggest that children forget, we all forget anyway, but some way, somehow, we find ways to pick up what we have forgotten, and then we move on. So it is natural. As for children, they will forget. Even we as adults,
we forget
what we have learned in school. If we have all in our mind, we will be better off. We also forget.
We'll take a look at our final story here. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says Ghana Health Service probes high number of COVID-19 infections among health workers. So Ghana Health Service says it is evaluating why a lot more health workers are testing positive for COVID-19 in the country. Health workers have consistently complained about inadequate personal protective equipment, which heightens their risk of infections in their line of duty. Last week, for instance, the Western region reportedly had 43 health workers testing positive, while the Eastern and Ashanti regions have also recorded 15 and 30 cases respectively. The Director General for the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kuma Abuaje, says although the health workers are categorized as being at high risk, it is possible some may have contracted the disease within their communities. So I'm going to quote what the Director General said. Apart from being at high risk of being infected at work, health workers are also part of our community, so they could also pick it up just like any other person. So we are evaluating all that. We have an insurance package for those that are infected, so it is important that we track them. We are doing further investigations to also look at what is going on. The most important thing is we have some health workers that are affected, and that is why the numbers are going up. It's a cumulative figure that continues to add up. It's not like these are new cases that have come up. It's not all the time they go to isolation or treatment centers to get infected. So, Franklin, I'll start with you on this story. Dr. Patrick Kuma Abuaje is saying that when you hear that a health worker has COVID-19, it doesn't always mean they got it in line of duty. They are members of our community, so they could pick that up. But shouldn't we also address the issue of exposing them to the communities? Should this all just be a matter of, it's not necessarily a health place, but communal contractions?
Well, what he said is that there is a possibility that when they had finished their duty and go home, because they are normal people, they have families, they go back to them. So it's possible they pick the information in the community. That is very possible. But what I expect him to be concentrating on is it a case that PPEs are inadequate? Is it a case that people are not properly trained to wear PPEs and to doff PPEs? So that is what I expect him to concentrate on as the Director General of Ghana Health Service, because there is no data to suggest that health workers are contracting the COVID in the communities. And so there should be research in that direction so that the research can inform what we do. Let me first of all say that the other day I made a point that, you see, PPEs are complementary. If you give us a lot of gloves and we do not have adequate face masks, there is research to suggest that what I'm wearing here, the cloth mask, is not protective when you are performing medical functions. And I am afraid to say that the medical type, the surgical ones, are short in supply. And so you find health workers having to manage with the cloth mask.
Which isn't good at all.
Which is, not that it is not good at all. There is research to suggest that it doesn't offer optimal protection as the medical mask would do.
But beyond PPEs, should we also be thinking about perhaps temporary homes for health workers so that they don't have to come back into our communities?
So that is what I'm expecting research to address. Is it a case that if the high-risk frontline health workers are identified and given places of abode, that they do not mingle as usual with their families, they will not get the infection. So all these things, you can see there is a missing link. We cannot just conjecture and say that they might have contracted it from communities. This thing should be informed by research. And the more reason why I said that I am not particularly happy when we have sat down and practitioners who have capacity, properly trained to do the COVID testing for us, are unable to do so, not because they do not have capacity as human resource, but because they do not have the logistics. And we have a research wing, which is supposed to be concentrating on research and doing some of this fine research, what is exposing our health workers, and they are getting infected, are busily doing the testing for us. So moving on, let us come back and put in proper infrastructure, proper logistics, so that we will not be saddled again as we have been saddled as the COVID broke up. It is very clear to me that if we do not do these things, posterity will judge us.
Thank you very much. Danaya Akwada, your thoughts on this story of health workers who are getting COVID-19 and possibly getting it from their communities and not their place of work?
Well, in fact, what the story did not tell us is what category of health workers we are looking at. For instance, we would want to know how many doctors, how many nurses, and how many support staff. I mean, go further to disaggregate the support staff. That should give us a lead into probably where we should start our investigations from. I heard my co-panelists mention that it would be due to a gap in their training, a gap in information, a gap in even how to administer certain physical tasks that is leading to this, if you like, significant number of infections. So what should we be looking at? I mean, should we be looking at how to don and doff PPE? Should we be looking at how not to even take your uniform home, or how to manage yourself after coming into contact with infected patients? Look, if I quickly, let me tell you a story that we read a couple of years back of an intensive care death that was occurring, consistently in a particular side of the intensive care unit on a particular bed, where everyone they transport to that particular bed or transfer to that particular bed. The next day by 9 a.m. the person has passed. Every person they put there, the next day by 9 a.m. the person has passed. And some started, mystifying it, putting all sorts of twists on it, until the hospital decided to monitor really what goes on that particular bed in the intensive care unit. They found out that a janitor to clean the place will pull the plug and plug in his phone to charge. So the machine that was actually supplying the patient on that particular bed with oxygen, because the janitor did not know what use it was for, he would pull it and plug in his phone and charge. So by the time he finished and plugs back, the patient had died. And so we should be looking at all of these. If we say health workers, a significant number is affected. Are we looking at the janitorial services? Are we looking at the support? Are we looking at nurses and doctors? We need this information to guide how we investigate this matter. And I believe that every person in the health sector is critical to managing this pandemic. And so this matter should be elevated to become an important and an urgent issue.
Thank you very much. Nana Yakwada is Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety, as well as Franklin Ni Amate is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists. We've received some of your messages. I'll try and read them briefly. Del1 in Cape Coast says, good morning, Madam. The ease on restrictions will by all means happen, whether after or before May 31st. If schools and churches are going to resume, then testing on large scale should be done for all participants and students so that the positive people will be isolated and treated. Without that, we'll be doing a one-step forward, two-step backward approach. Okay. Good morning. Please, I think the government should not be in a hurry to open schools, and then EC money should be used for mass testing. That's coming from Richard. AU Farouk from Tamale North says, it is frightening, the rise of COVID-19 cases in Ghana. What is really going on in the country? Thank you guys so much for joining us for Breakfast Daily, the news review segment. We will be hearing from the Information Ministry soon. They'll be talking to us about the update on the deportees from Kuwait. They will talk to us about the dynamics of the virus, as well as updates on case count and case management. We'll be taking that at exactly 9 a.m. Don't go anywhere. Breakfast Daily will be right back. Thank you for staying with us.
It's here, the ExpressPay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel